Welcome to August 13th, 2020, which is also Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Yay! This officially marks the end of the 2019, yes, 2019 calendar year for Black women. And what do I mean by that? Quite simply, Black Women's Equal Pay Day is a celebration, shall I say, not commemoration, but a celebration of the fact that you finally, as a woman of color, have earned all of the money that you should have earned in 2019. Here's what I mean by that. If a Black woman and a white male start work January 1st, 2019, a Black woman would have to work until August 13th, 2020, which is today, in order to earn what a white male has earned on December 31st, 2019. Yes, I said 2019. So you are now finishing your calendar year. And so congratulations. We have to work an additional 8 months of the year in order for us to be able to see the same compensation as a white male. Why is this so important? And I know that you're probably sitting here like, Carol, I know this is going someplace. And I'm here to tell you that this is an important day because for the most part, I think that we have not had a great discussion and an open discussion, and it's not going to get a ton of play because I know that this could be controversial in its own right because it's like separating Black women from all women. And we're in a heightened time of racial injustice and trying to discuss the disparities that different racial groups have had and different marginalized groups have had. I completely understand where your standpoint is, but I want to give you a moment to really process what I'm about to say. Think of it as all women are in the middle of a pay disparity, and we completely understand that, and I support and I'm an ally for all women. But when it comes to Black women having to exert themselves and do a lot more work for an allotted more time, for the average white woman, she can stop working by February in order for her to earn equal pay. But we got to work all the way till August, almost the middle of August, to see the same results. Because on average, the average equal pay gap is about 21%. But for Black women, we're only earning between 58 cents and 61 cents on each dollar for a white male. And this is important today, and we have to discuss this every single day because this doesn't go away because we celebrated the fact that we finally ended our calendar year. This is a larger discussion about how allies can get into and involved in this discussion and invest in this discussion. Now, I wrote an op-ed this morning that is in Inc. magazine, inc.com. You want to go check it out. It is entitled The State of Black Women in Corporate America. And it is based off the Lean In and McKinsey & Company study that talks about the disparities and what companies can do to become allies and mentors and to accelerate the needs of Black women in corporate America. It's a fascinating study, and I was honored to have a lot of time yesterday with Sheryl Sandberg to be able to discuss how they collaborated with their Women in the Workplace study to be able to fine-tune Black women in the workplace and to understand the needs and the issues that Black women are facing. And one of the issues that I talked about in my op-ed that I think really kind of seals the deal on this issue is the issue of microaggressions. Like, I don't think any of the other points that were in my op-ed are relevant or non-relevant, but I don't think anything meant more to me than writing about microaggressions. And I'm going to tell you why. As a woman of color, I have experienced my share, and I still continue to this day experience my share. As if I have not worked hard enough, achieved a lot, been in certain spaces. Look, I've been on stage with Sheryl Sandberg. I've been on stage at Harvard. I've been on stage with Sarah Blakely and Kevin O'Leary. I've had dinner with them. I've done it all, but I still have to prove myself a lot more for people to be able to take me seriously. And you wouldn't believe I've done all this work, and I'm going to give myself a Viola Davis moment. I've done the Harvard, I've done the Yale, I've done the Columbia, I've done the Steve Harveys, I've done this, I've done the Today Show, and people still ask me to try to work for free. And it's just a normalized experience that we're consistently having to put up barriers to say, no, I've achieved all of that already. I did that already. But within that, there is a microaggression. And what that microaggression is the way you phrase context for asking for something. So let me give you an example of what microaggression is. In my former days in corporate America, so I left corporate America and the details don't matter. It's over 15 years ago. And I remember I used to work in this law firm. I was the only Black woman in this law firm with maybe 300 people. There were a few Hispanics, I'd say about 3 or 4. There were definitely a few Asians, but on an average scale, I was the only Black woman in this entire law firm. And I worked in something called the intake department. I was still in school, in grad school at the time. And I was in this department, and I was working with a woman who was my supervisor, so to speak. She was a white woman. And one day I noticed that every day she played Norah Jones. And I was getting sick of hearing Norah Jones. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Norah Jones. But you ever like something until you hear it every day? I liked Norah Jones when I would hear Norah Jones, but this was every day. So you talk about every day she puts on the same song. And this is back in the day when we had big back computers and the CD with the CD-ROM and the 2 speakers on the side with the little tuner thing. This is that time. This is like 2001, 2002. And it's every day I'd hear, don't know why I didn't come. And it just started to, I couldn't take it. I'd be depressed by 12 o'clock because Norah Jones could be depressing. That was her first album. So one day, I mustered up the courage to ask my supervisor, hey, just real quick, do you mind if I play a little bit of music at my desk? You know, I'll play it kind of low, but just to kind of sometimes pep me up, because sometimes I'd listen to Norah Jones and by 12 o'clock I had no energy. I would be feeling like slightly suicidal. But when I said that, I really just meant, can I play a few tunes at my own desk? I'm not trying to interrupt you from playing Norah Jones. It just means at my desk I want to play something else. Because there was only 3 of us in the office at the time. And you know what she said to me? She said, sure, I don't mind. Stop. That should have been it, right? Then she says, as long as you don't play gangster rap. It took all of mankind to hold and restrain me that day. As if to say, as a Black woman, the only thing I listen to is gangster rap. As if to say, you live in my experience. And as if to say, all Black people, especially all Black women, all we do is listen to NWA and whatever else. And I had to find a way to bite my tongue and just give it a second so I can calm down and not respond, aka react emotionally. And I said, is that your assumption? Is that I listen to gangster rap? She says, no. I'm just saying that, it's just too much for me. I says, again, are you saying that your assumption is I listen to gangster rap? No. She was defensive because by that time it had already gone through her head what she was saying. Because there were other people in the office, some of which, were listening to heavy metal and Dead or Alive, Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin. And no problem with me. I like them all. But to assume that I listen to gangster rap was a level of microaggression that I couldn't get past. And then imagine the next day when you come in, you have to deal with another level of aggression where the next day she would say stuff like, oh, that was a great letter you wrote. I didn't expect that from you. What do you mean you didn't expect that from me? Why didn't you stop at that was a great letter you wrote? I didn't expect that from you. This barrier here is called microaggression. It's when you give someone, especially a Black woman, a compliment, you stop, and then you add a preposition at the end that subtly lets people know that you were not expecting that from a person that looked like that. So I have examples like I have experience, especially in the confidence factor, meeting women who say, you speak well. Stop. For a Black woman? What do you mean by that? Or you write well. Stop. For a Black woman. Or I didn't expect that you were a writer for that publication. That was a shock to me. Another one could be, hey, girlfriend. Oh, sister. Be very careful with those words, because those are slight microaggressions that all Black women have had to deal with at some level in some way that are hurtful and they're harmful. And imagine you have to get up every day and 5 days a week. You're either dealing with, hey, you write well for a Black woman, or you're pretty for a Black woman, or you have beautiful skin for a Black woman, or hey, Miss Chocolata. Those things, you do this every single day. And although you may not mean anything by it, eventually that starts chipping away at the confidence and the value of that Black woman. And eventually she does not show up to work with the same purpose and the same drive. She's almost like feeling like she doesn't mean anything here. So she keeps her head down and she doesn't participate because she doesn't feel like she's included. She feels like the diversity and inclusion effort at this company does not fit for her because, you know, you're calling her sister and you're saying you write well for a Black woman, or hey, you know, how you keeping there, homie? Little things like that eventually start adding up. And so Black women have a hard time participating because they feel judged. They feel like they're being used. And they definitely know that they're not being paid enough for all of that. So Black women go above and beyond to do exceptional work only to be told, wow, I didn't expect that out of you for a Black person or as a Black woman. Or the one that I really always have loved is, not only do you speak well as a Black woman, you're articulate for a Black woman. Nobody says that to even women that are from other countries. I have plenty, half my family is Indian. I don't ever hear anybody say, you speak well for an Indian. You know, they don't do that with their strong Urdu dialect. Nobody says, you speak well for an Indian. You're articulate for an Indian. Nobody says that. But when it's a Black woman, you're very articulate. Like that's a shock. I want to let you know that we are not a monolith. And if you want to be an ally in making sure that all Black voices are heard, especially Black women that can actually not have to work an additional 8 months to be able to achieve the same thing as a white male, you have to understand where microaggression fits into this dynamic of this discussion. It's not enough to just assume that it's okay to say these things. It's not enough to assume that you can actually just say those things and we're okay with it. You have to imagine that someone like myself or any of the other women that look just like me are internalizing these messages every single day. And then they go home and they watch the news and they watch George Floyd die, or they watch Trayvon Martin get killed. And these things keep repeating over and over. So there's no reprieve even when they go home, because the concerns of their communities and their families are still on their back. I also like to tell you that I'm not going to go into this today, but imagine the drive home from work is also stressful on Black women. I can tell you, I live gated. I live in a gated community. I live well, but I can tell you my hands are 10 and 2. I live in a community that has a lot of cops, and sometimes the cop acts like he sees me and, hi, how are you? And sometimes they come right behind you to run the plate because they just assume Black women can't live in this neighborhood. So imagine that you just heard, you speak well for a Black woman, you come behind the gate of your own home, and then a cop chases you all the way home to just see if you really belong there. And your day is not even over yet. These stresses continue to harm the value of Black women. So if you want to be an ally in this conversation, if you want to be in it for the cause and not in it just for the optics, you have to understand that Black women have just completed an additional 8 months to play catch up for 2019, not 2020. Their calendar year for 2020 starts tomorrow. They haven't even started for 2020 yet. Imagine they have not earned a dime for 2020 yet. They're still paying themselves for 2019. If you want to be an ally, watch the microaggressions. Watch the level of frustrations. Invest in asking them if they're okay. Understand that Black women are mothers, sisters, daughters, cousins, aunts, nieces, same thing just as you. They love just as you. And we're an ally for everyone else, but very few people become an ally for us. And like I said, a lot of us have accomplished great things, and we're still discounted, and sometimes we're ignored. And so this is a great day for you to acknowledge that if you want to be part of this, that you have to acknowledge that Black women have not made their salary for 2020 yet. They only start work tomorrow to earn for 2020. So be an ally. Make sure, just check some of your microaggressions at the door. Be very conscious and cautious of what you say, because the same way that we say Black Lives Matter, words matter, intentions matter, and whether you don't mean anything by it. The same thing we can say about, not saying things to hurt the minds of children. It's the same thing that Black women are going through every day. Words do matter.